Hello, and welcome to Latest HR on the Offensive Live. It's me, Chris Howard from Lace Partners, joined in the Lace studio today by Charmaine. How are you doing, Charmaine? You all right?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. We're going to talk about something close to your heart because it's based on an article which Mr. Kirby, you and I had read and were having a chat about. And so what we thought we'd do is just come on here for 5 minutes, maximum 10 minutes, just to talk to you guys about quite an interesting piece that's been covered, not just, the article that some of us were forwarded on was in the Express, but actually it made quite a lot of the headlines in the national media and also the business trade media as well. And that is that a number of articles picked up around half of, it's a research report that was done saying that half of 13 to 18-year-olds are more focused on building a career that aligns to values and mission and purpose rather than remuneration. So Chris and I had a brief chat about this and we thought, let's drag Charmaine on for her debut on the live stream and have a chat about it. But before we go to you, because you've recently, in the last year or so, you wrote an article for us which was around different types of Sorry about that. Technical error, Mr. Kirby. Hopefully,
I was thinking, shall I fill in?
Live TV, don't you just love it? So anyway, as I was saying, you've recently written an article which is all around the different ways in which you can flex your EVP. And so what we thought we'd do is just take a few moments to talk about that. But Chris, I'm going to start off with you just to get your thoughts over this idea of happiness or values over pay. And just sort of set the tone for us. And then Charmaine, if you can jump in after Chris, just giving your thoughts as well.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Chris. And I think, being the reflective payroll person, I've looked backwards at this a number of times. And I think there's one specific thing that I think sort of helps to set the scene around the way that, I guess, society, but also the view of work and the role that work plays in people's lives has shifted over the sort of last maybe 30 years. And I think, from a payroll perspective, I certainly look back at let's call them the final salary sort of pension days. And I think outside the public sector, that's, pretty much gone now. And I think the one thing that benefit and a number of other sort of benefits certainly did for the sort of employee to employer relationship is actually it's a job. A lot of people were choosing a job for life. I can live a comfortable life. I can do well at work. I can do that for 30 years. And by the end of that, potentially I'll be rewarded in retirement at the same level that I'm being paid for my career by the time I retire, because the pension was certainly based on that. With that gone, I think the attitude of employees towards work, that's at least contributed to it, but it's shifted a lot more. It's no longer a decision for life. It's a decision around now and where I want to be maybe in 3 years' time, where I want to be maybe in 5 years' time, how I develop. I think development also from an employee perspective has potentially shifted in line with that around, rather than this straight up line where people are just looking to join a company and then how do I progress. There's a lot more moving a little bit up and sideways multiple times to get to the same place. And I think it's that commitment stroke loyalty that I think has maybe been removed from that relationship as part of those sort of changes in society. I think as well, there's a number of other factors, the fact that access to information and everything that people have now means that they're more aware of a lot more. I think access to different parts of the globe, people look for global roles a lot more now. It's no longer, I certainly look for a job that was nearest where I lived and which was the biggest company I could join close to where I lived when I was entering the workforce. So I think there's a lot more of that. But I just think there's a whole dynamic around the employee to employer and the relationship that's linked to a lot more than just, actually, is it happiness I want, things like that. And I think that contributes to a lot of the maybe more targeted things that people now look for around values and everything that I know Charmaine's going to, really help us understand a bit more on.
No, absolutely. I think there has been a major shift, most certainly over the last few years with the rise in digital activism. So I think there's a lot more around people really asking themselves, does this job reflect who I am? Does this employer reflect my values and my beliefs? I think this also kind of lines more with your personal brand as well. So I think there's a lot more of a rise around, my personal brand. I have a belief in, whether it be environmental impacts or, things in terms of, you know, the uprising, whether there's like things in terms, things in terms of, you know, gender inequality. Does this organization have the same beliefs? Does it take a stand against these things? Is it really important? These are the things that are really important to me. If I want to align myself with that organization, does it align with what I believe? So I think there's now a major shift in that, how people think. And I think this is where you go back to the whole point around EVP. Organizations are now having to really look at, you know, how can I make sure that as an employer that I'm, you know, ensuring that a lot of the beliefs and the systems that are happening right now, that there's an alignment with that. I think there's a massive rise in, you know, your beliefs over your benefits. So for an employee, their beliefs matter more than what an organization has to offer financially. And there's been a major shift in that now. So it's more than, okay, I get paid every month. Actually, does this organization align with, you know, what I believe in? Does it align with the things that I stand for in society? So I think there's definitely been a major shift in that. And I think that's the reason why a lot more employers are realizing that it's more than just offering a paycheck from month to month, but actually there's things around, you know, do I offer flexibility? So there's been a massive rise, especially since COVID, around, you know, hybrid working. Are organizations also, you know, making sure that they can subscribe to that? Because a lot more people are really looking at, you know, their mental health and, you know, their well-being. And that's another thing that a lot of organizations are having to really improve on, you know, what's their well-being offerings as well. So I think most definitely there has been a rise in that. And I think a lot of organizations are having to really look into that in a lot more detail than they ever have before. So yes, absolutely. You know, you can no longer use that as an opportunity to, you know, the whole financial element as a way to, you know, influence this, especially this current generation. You're having to really offer a lot more than that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think your piece, which you wrote about the EVP and being able to start thinking, I wonder how many businesses, just before we wrap up today, a little bit from Kirby and then a little bit from yourself, from clients that you guys are speaking to, and obviously you're speaking to some businesses, our businesses that we work with all the time. How many are actually taking that mindset approach of we have to tailor our EVP based on certain demographics? Chris, and then I'll go to Charmaine.
I think to a certain extent, it's almost all of them, right? It's difficult because it's not a direct response to that question and that problem statement. But I think I've certainly seen it with multiple clients over recent years around the retention aspect. It's no longer really linked to sort of money and simply about, oh, I'm going to leave for more money. It's nearly always because, you know, actually I value work-life balance and I'm not getting it here. Or actually, you know, I don't feel like I'm part of this company. People think they're joining a company based on maybe values that are advertised, and when they get there, they're not what are being lived, they're not what they experience, or at least they're not what that value meant to them. And there's so much more of that than there is or at least that I've seen around just simply people getting to the point where they want to leave for a pay rise, which I think traditionally, if you go back 30 years, as I say, was probably more of a thing. And I think a lot of that just links back to access to information. I think it's not just in the job market. I think it's a reflection on society generally, because if you think about as a consumer, you know, the brands we buy now, very much, we're no longer just going to the high street. Oh, I need a t-shirt. I'm going to go into this shop and, oh, look, there's a nice shiny one from a brand that I see a lot of marketing from. I'm just going to buy it. People actually know what the working conditions are like at those brands now. They know what they stand for. They know if there's, you know, they're going to have an economical sort of impact by doing it. So I think it's a huge story. It's not just in the workplace.
Yeah, and just a final thought then, are you seeing that with clients? Like they're all doing what you said in your blog, 6 months ago?
I absolutely think so, definitely. I think there's been a major shift. I almost think that because of the way that society has shifted, they've had no choice but to shift in the same way, especially if, you know, we know that business, it all goes back to, you know, profit. So in order for you to really make sure that as an organization, you are getting the best talent, you are going to have to make sure that you shift what that EVP looks like. You're going to have to make sure that, you know, you're bringing in people more than, you know, what you're able to offer financially, but there's the entire package. And it goes back to that piece I just said around personal brand. People will only align with what also fits into what Chris said around, for example, the environmental. Like, for example, if you're an organization that does not subscribe to that, then if you are someone that just subscribes to that mentality, you're less likely to want to work for that kind of organization. So definitely there has, because of that major shift, I would say that organizations have almost had no choice but to make that shift.
Yeah, brilliant. So if you want to check out the blog that Charmaine did, I think it's in the show notes, but we'll also put a link to it on our socials as well. But Charmaine, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And Chris, thank you very much.
Thanks as always, Chris.
We're going to catch you next time on the HR on the Offensive live stream. See you later.